And the recording is in progress.
11 o'clock and the recording has started. So, okay. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Erick Peterson. I have been a real estate agent since October of 2006. That's how, no, it's good. I always tell people I got into real estate right as the piano was being pushed off the top of the building. So you learn a lot in the really hard times on how to do things, and what you did wrong. And then you do them wrong again, and then you do them wrong again. And then pretty soon you start to formulate your craft on best practice. Okay. So a couple ground rules for today. I am absolutely not the guy that's going to walk in here and hand you a presentation and on this. I am the guy that's going to talk through a lot of the stuff with you and help you formulate your own methodology on how these tools and tricks that I give you today can work best for you. Okay. Because obviously in an industry like this, there's no one way of doing things, right? And obviously we have different personality profiles in our sellers. And so we can use the tools here to appeal to any of them, right? So I am going to pre-apologize. I probably will swear at some point and not even realize that I did that. And Butler's here, so we'll try to keep that to a minimum. Nice to see you again, John. So I'd love for today's class to be fairly interactive, okay? Because we all have properties that have been tough, right? Like no property is exactly the same unless we have identical comps and they all sold at this over the period of the last 6 months. That's kind of an easy one. But what we're going to do today is we're going to work together at formulating a plan for how do we comp the incomparable, right? So this CMA class isn't necessarily going to be a CMA. We pull the drop down tab in MLS and put these. I can tell you that, you know, in my 18 years of experience, I don't know that I've ever used that tab. Do I think it can be a great tool for people? Yes. Do I think it goes way too deep into the weeds and way more than what people need to know? Yes. I think sharp, accurate data is good for people. And I think too much of that sharp, accurate data confuses them. So we have to walk that fine line. So I'm gonna show you a tool, and this like the teaching portion of this is gonna take very little time. Okay. So what I want you to be thinking about is what properties do I have that may be a little bit tougher to comp, or what properties do I have in my pipeline that I may want some help comping and brainstorming as a group that we can do this together, right? Because obviously, like, what are we seeing in the market today versus the market 6 months, a year ago, 18 months ago? Days on market are getting longer, right? Prices are falling. 15% of the active inventory is doing a price reduction on a weekly basis, right? Like, these things are all what sellers should know. They need to know where the trajectory is. And so think about all these, the nuances in the market as it pertains to, you know, the properties that are in your pipeline. You may be able to get somebody off the fence maybe a little bit quicker and get them into an active listing status. But we're going to talk about what we call bracketing. How many of you, quick show of hands, how many of you do a one-step listing appointment? Where you're there, you're done, you've got it, it's all like everything's done. Raise them high. How many of you do a two-step? Two-step? Okay. So where I was hoping there'd be quite a few more, because I know there's probably way more agents that actually do two-step. And my goal is let's get you out of a two-step and into a one-step with this. Because if I'm competing against another agent and they've already interviewed with that seller, it's so easy to handle. I just say, don't you think if that agent was a true professional in this market, they would have known the value in your first meeting? And immediately it throws them off there, right? So we'll learn some objection handlers as well. So are you laughing because that was a little
I'm like,
statement?
Okay, wow, that was
Yeah,
strong, but it's good.
it's real. Right? It's very easy to discredit somebody who has to come back to give you a value because they didn't quite understand it. The method that I'm going to teach you today in bracketing is a foolproof way of getting around all of that. Okay? So there's whenever I have a listing appointment, I'm going to use 3 sets of data. Okay? And I'm going to bring all 3. Okay? So I'm going to go to the last listing in the MLS. I'm going to click on that tax statement. What piece of data is that tax statement going to give me? Real A and B. You know, you go about 3/4 of the way down.
Like say, like if they've done like the value of improvements of the property too, or
Not necessarily.
oh,
Okay, so we're gonna use a couple baseline numbers, and that's all it's gonna do is help us hone right away. Okay, and I'm just gonna share with you. Some of you may completely disagree with this. I don't care. It works for me. Hopefully, it does work for you. Like I said, there's not a one size. I'm gonna look at that real A and B, and it's gonna give me a number, but it's gonna give me a range. Okay, so we're just gonna write this in. Okay, so yeah, it has the tax valuation and all that. That's fine. Obviously, you know, tax values have gotten a lot closer as counties have realized how much money they're actually missing out on with the improvements in the market over the last 4 or 5 years. So real A and B is going to give you a low, mid, and that's going to be the number that they focus on, right? And then they're going to give you a high end. Okay. Now, I'm going to say a real dirty word here coming up, okay? But it is something that I use. I go check Zillow. Why would I check Zillow?
Because they are. They are looking at it.
They are. Yep. I check Zillow because they are, right? Not, I don't, and I say this in the listing appointment as we're discussing numbers. I check Zillow because while I believe Zillow is an inaccurate representation of what's on the market currently, Zillow is, with the money and power behind them, one of the better data aggregators in our industry. Can we agree on that? And so I check Zillow simply for the fact of they're aggregating all that data in real time. Okay? And I'm not using that number as that's it. It's Zillow plus 3%. I don't have anything like that. But what does Zillow do? It gives us a low, mid, I'll say this estimate right there, and a high. Okay? What did I do with my first 2 sources of information that took me 15 seconds to look up? I created a low end bracket. I created a high end bracket. I created a low end bracket. I created a high end bracket. Then we get into the true market analysis, and we're going to use bracketing. I want you all think about bracketing. Okay. So let's just say you have a property. What's your average sales price in this market center?
Oh, 566,000.
566. Thank you. Okay. So let's just say you've got a seller.
About, sorry.
Roughly 566, 275.
550.
No, just kidding.
This is good, right? So let's just say you have a seller and they're not quite sure what their home is worth. They have an idea, but they don't really want to tell you because they want to see what you say first. That maybe that's happened to a few of us, right? So all that we're going to do is we're going to pull the address. Depending on neighborhood specifics, we may pull a geographic search of up to a mile out. I try and stay with what an appraiser would use, right? Because remember, we have to sell a home 3 times. We sell it to the buyer. We sell it to the buyer's agent. They have to make sure that it's a good deal, right? Bring their buyer. But most importantly, we got to sell it to the lender and the appraiser. Any low appraisals happen in the last 6 months in this office? I just got one this week. It happens, right? So how do we substantiate it? Well, you substantiate it by showing them kind of your metrics on what you pulled. So we pull an address and we're gonna pull, let's just say we pull a mile, or maybe where we are, it can be like 10 miles, right? Because we serve the way squadron. Right? But let's just say you pull half a mile out, okay? And maybe you know it's in a pretty good area, so maybe you shift it to one side where, you know, the neighborhoods are more comparable. But let's just say you have a 4-bed, 3-bath, 2-stall garage, 0.35 acres, okay? And they bought it a few years ago for $400K. And now they're looking to upgrade, okay? So now we're gonna look at actives, pendings, and sold. What do the actives tell us?
What's going on right now?
The actives tell you what the competition is today. If I enter into this competition today, who are my opponents for same or similar property? If I'm getting into the ring, I want to know who I'm going to be fighting, because you get one shot at either being the bride or the bridesmaid. You get to choose based upon your pricing. The pricing that you establish will be 80% of your marketing. Okay, remember that. So we're going to pull actives. Why are we going to pull pendings?
That's like on every contract.
That's the price that caused the home to sell. If it's been active for, 98 days and they started 20 grand higher at a price that, comparable home, but your seller wants, the price that they started at, you want to give them a price that the home will sell for, right? That will cause the home to go under contract. And I'm going to say things when I emphasize things, it means these are all words that I use in an actual appointment, right? So we need to know that we're picking a price that will cause your home to sell. Okay? Then I'm going to pick out the solds. Why am I going to do that?
Those are the homes the appraiser like.
That's the homes the appraiser likes. That's the last person that we have to appease. Wouldn't it make more sense for us to look at the homes that sell and show the appraiser that? Because then we have justifiable answers and substantiated value. So again, remember, this is what's going to get the buyer. Remember we said you have to sell a home 3 times? This is what's going to get the buyer, comparing it against other homes that they want to look at. This is what's going to get that agent to substantiate the value that they're paying. But most importantly, I want them to write a contract, but once we get through that, I need to substantiate it to the bank, because that's how the buyer's bringing their money in. And if I'm listing a property, once we get past negotiations, I don't care about anybody except that last hurdle, which is the bank. Okay? So we pull them, and let's just say we have 3 or 4 actives, one ranging from 325 to, we're using today's numbers, so we'll say 525 to 625. Okay. We have 3 pendings ranging from 540. I keep on the 3. 540 to 575. Okay. And we've got 4 solds ranging from 535 to 565. Okay. How many comps do we have here that we just pulled? 11? How many are you supposed to use? It doesn't matter. You can use 150. It doesn't matter at all. Okay. I'm a bigger fan of using more, because the seller's going to see more options and they're going to see that you. Have you ever walked into a listing appointment and said, these are your 2 comps? And the seller said, no, but I have this, this, and this, and you kind of, well, yeah, but now you gotta make like appraiser adjustments in your head, and you're going, okay, extra bedroom, above grade, $10,000, below grade, extra square footage, I'll park this. They wanna know that you're gonna be accurate, okay? So with this methodology that we're learning today, the seller, you're giving the seller the information, and they're gonna bracket in their own head, okay? The bracket is going to be your low to high, okay? But if you have comps, active, pending, and sold, will one of the actives be more like their house than any other? Will one of the pendings likely be more like their house than any other? And will one of the solds be the same? Yeah, okay? So all that we're gonna do, we're gonna print these out, and maybe you can throw away one if you've clearly, because you're at the appointment, you've done your pre-qualifying, right? You know that, hey, oh, we completely gutted and updated the kitchen 2 years ago. Everything is brand new and beautiful. Boom, what is that doing? It's pushing us this way, okay? If there's, oh, hey, we gotta get out, we don't really wanna make the repairs, we had a financial hardship, there's dog pee everywhere. Where is it pushing us? It's sliding us back down the scale, okay? But you know, by looking at this data in real AMV, by looking at that, and by looking at the MLS comps, that you successfully created a low-end bracket and a high-end bracket, okay? Now, we want to be reasonable with this. It's not like we're having, the low is 200, high is 800. You can't do that. You gotta be within $30,000 to $50,000 on either side, right? And the comps that you pull will dictate that. See, we have basically what's 525 to 625, pendings at 545 to 75. Okay, so as we look at this, all that we're gonna do is we're gonna throw out the comps immediately. Like, obviously, this is our first time in the house. We pulled comps that were a fairly wide range, okay? Now we're gonna throw out, after going through the house, probably the comps that make the least amount of sense, okay? It's probably the low end, and it's probably the high end, okay? So what does that do for us? Shortens our bracket, okay? So now we just basically threw away the possibility of it being 20 to 30,000 of our low end pricing and 20 to 30,000 of our high end pricing, okay? Now, we're gonna hone in on the comps that are closest in square footage, the closest in comparable, bedrooms, bathrooms, like housing metrics, age, lot size, and then we're going to get into condition, okay? And so your only goal with all of these is to pull and pull and pull and hone in. And we're doing this with the seller, okay?
So that's what you're sitting there with them, showing
With them.
comps that are
This
low
one,
and high.
probably not a great comp, right? And I'm shaking my head while I'm staring them in the eyes. Okay, I'm using that body like, no, we're gonna throw it out. This one, pretty good, right? They're in agreement with, okay? This one, a little bit too high, about an extra 800 square feet, probably doesn't make sense to keep this one, okay? We're gonna keep going through this process until we continue to bracket down and bracket down until we get 1 to 2 that the seller is in agreement with, that their home fits these 2 homes the closest. What have we just done?
But then your pricing went.
We worked with the seller, so the seller is comfortable picking that price. By taking this down, like do sellers have this magical number in their head that they think their house is worth? Typically, and typically, is it higher than what the market actually is? Where does the seller start? They probably start somewhere in here, right? But what did we just do together with the seller? We worked with them to remove the comps, right? That made the least amount of sense. And listen, if there's a comp and this needs to shift, like here, if there's a comp that like this is better, like this can slide, it doesn't have to be right in the middle. It can slide one way or the other based upon condition. And that's the beauty of this is you can go into any appointment anywhere and have real-time data in front of you, knowing that you're with the seller in that moment and work together to pick a price that will cause the home to sell. Because now you're looking at the same data. Well, yeah, the comps tell me this, but I really wanted that. Well, based upon what we've seen, do you think that's a feasible number?
Question.
Yeah.
You mentioned that, you've already talked to them about their updates and stuff.
Yep.
Prior to this appointment.
Yeah.
So where is that, does that happen when you first make the listing appointment and then this questionnaire goes out? Is that on the phone? Like, how does that process happen for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that should be part of your, number one, timing and motivation, right? Like, how quickly would you like to move? What's driving you to make? Who's making the move with you? What improvements have you made since you purchased? So I think it's just part of a natural question. You don't have to get a detailed list and, I've made, we all get the sellers, right? Or I've made $65,321 in improvements since I purchased this home 3 years ago. None of that shit matters. What is it? Like, did you do a brand new kitchen remodel? Neat. Now I can move you up or down the spectrum, right? Do you have a ton of deferred maintenance? Great. Now I can move you down the spectrum. But when you do it this way, you have zero risk of bringing 3 properties to the table that don't make sense. I've done it. Anyone who has taken more than 5 or 6 listings has done this, right? Where you've showed up and you went, this is not at all what I expected. It's just part of the business, right? There's no fault, right? It's just, hey, I didn't have the information that I needed, or I didn't pre-qualify enough to get accurate information, or you weren't very forthcoming with information, and so I didn't quite know. This alleviates that need because you start with your eyes wide open. You slowly shut them to squint in on that price that makes sense. And all we're doing is continuing to bracket and push down, bracket and push in, bracket and push up. And guess what? We end up with a price that we believe will cause the home to sell. Okay? It's not a difficult concept. I may print a little more paper in my comps than another agent who comes in with 3 that maybe work, maybe don't. But guess what I get away from? I get away from not, like, you're the pro here. You get to hone in with the seller on a number that works. I get away from any opportunity or any risk of potentially being inaccurate by using a larger pool and fishing in the spot with the fish, right? Does this make sense to everybody?
Yeah, is there any certain order based, you start limiting stuff based on age or square feet or condition? Is there, you just take one,
No,
take this one and then say, well, that age is, it's too old.
there's not, because let's just say you have a house that was built 20 years ago that had fresh updates, right? Brand new carpet, brand new flooring, new paint. Like I would take the 2003 to 2005 built Rambler and push my folks there over anything new right now because the quality of the build, right? Yeah. I mean, it's just, that's what it is. Like builders are cheap now. So I don't think it's order. I think if there's anything glaring that maybe that may veer from the property that you're currently comparing, do that.
Let's take the easy ones first.
Take the easy ones first, right? And more than likely, those are going to be your low end and your high end, right? So all I'm looking to do with these first 2 is, hey, what is my ballpark landing zone? Okay, so now I'm gonna and then we go to comps and I'm gonna pull outside, a little bit outside of that landing zone, a little bit inside of that landing zone. And so we're just gonna continually hone in and hone in and hone in. Has anyone ever sighted in a rifle here?
Yes.
It's not Alaska 2000.
I love that he always remembers on Alaska.
So that's all we're doing is sighting in the rifle. It's not massive swings, right? It's not, oh, we have this and then we have this and then now we're just gonna aim somewhere in the middle. You're slowly clicking your turrets until you find your crosshairs. Hopefully that landed with some people here. Where I'm from, everybody's like, yeah! I got that buck back in. Holy hell.
So how long, for someone who's never done this method, how long should it take them at first? Like,
The beauty is you're not I'm not analyzing okay, I'm not making adjustments for anything like that form in the MLS it's adjustments here, it's how do I calculate this and then bring this up and can we make adjustments for this? No, that crap takes way too long.
That's what appraisers do.
Yeah, leave it to them. But I'm gonna be able to justify it with what I do, right?
well, you're already kind of making the adjustments just with individual properties.
You're making the adjustments by peeling them back. All you're doing is
Yep.
peeling them back. And I have them laid out. I'm going through them and I'm kind of spreading them out. I'm saying this one doesn't work, this one doesn't work, this one doesn't work. This one's off by this, this, and this based upon the condition. So now we've got 3 or 4. So based upon these 4, which are probably $10,000 to $15,000 apart instead of the original 45,000 that we started with, right? Which ones do you think are the most accurate reflection of your home? Right? And if they're like, I'm like, it's this one, right? Like you can be pointed with people and still let them decide. But remember, for you and for the seller on the other side, clarity will come from a process of elimination and not addition. It's a very simple way to do your market analysis. And guess what? You don't have to show up at the house with a number in your head doing it this way. Has anybody, raise your hand if you've shown up at a house and you've pulled up and you'd be like, God, I hope the number that I already picked before seeing this house at all was 100% accurate and it's gonna sell right for this. Like, have we done that before? Have you been like, holy shit, I was wrong. It's way different. Like, we just do that, right? I will have a ballpark, like here and here and here and here. And I'm gonna be like, yeah, it's probably gonna sell for somewhere in this. But until I know what that is actually going on in that home, who am I to pick a price? They live there. You may as well just take whatever number they want to throw at you. It's probably going to be more accurate, right? Like we can't do that. We have to help them realize where the value is. You're not giving them a price. You know, that's no different than somebody calling you and, what is my car worth today? Well, what do you drive? I don't know. Like you have to be willing to lump the data, put it in front of them, and then throw away the data that doesn't work based upon what you're actually seeing. And guess what? Your numbers are going to be more accurate. You're going to see through this process, right? Like this is what it's listed for. This is the price they dropped to. And they went under contract at that price with pendings, right? After 15 days on the market. So can we say that after 15? Hey, Matt. Can we say that after 15 days on the market, they probably took less than what's there? Can we make assumptions with our pendings? If we know that, hey, yeah, the neighbor down the street sold for $590. Well, guess what? They didn't tell you that he paid 15 grand in closing costs, did he? But we can see that. What does that do to our bracket? shrinks it. We're taking a large volume of data and we're shrinking it with the seller. Bracket, 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 price.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I've struggled with lot size, so I had buyers were trying to figure out a price for property they wanted to make an offer on.
Yeah.
That lot was almost a full acre.
Yeah.
But housing comps, I could find a lot of houses that were comparable.
Yeah.
That, but the lot sizes were all over the place, from a third of an acre to 1.2, and really, most of the lots we were looking at were a lot smaller. So it was hard to get an idea of value, how to understand what to put on that one.
Yeah, good question. So we run into this a lot, right? So does anybody want to take a picture of this, or like, I'm gonna erase this. So if you want to come up and take a picture of it, please do.
Sorry, guys, you have to wait till I get up.
Can you just tell me if you, you told me that you look at the aggregates, the data aggregates for the, real A and B and below.
Yeah.
Could you share that with your clients?
I do. Yeah. Because I'm assuming that they're doing it too, and I want them to know what data's out there. Because like with Zillow, if you're a buyer, where do buyers search for homes? You give them all the tools in the world that you have access to. Where do they go? You got Redfin, United Realty, Zillow, right? Like they use them because the user interface is better. Let's be honest, our MLS kind of sucks. So I share it with them because listen, I'm not pegging, and I flat out tell them, I'm not pegging your home based upon one source of information. I'm looking at multiple sources. The first source is real AMV because it's it's the back end data source through our system, the back end data aggregator. It keeps track of all the sales in the MLS, right? And it aggregates that data in real time. This is what it says. Has that been in your home? No. I look at Zillow because guess what? Any buyer who comes out to your property to take a look, do you think they've looked it up on Zillow? I want to know if that's accurate or inaccurate. Have you looked up your home on Zillow? What do they say? Yeah. Right? What did you think of that number? Pretty good, but they didn't. Has Zillow been inside your home? No, but now that I am, here's what we're gonna do. And usually what I'll do, so this is where I think you could really gain experience in the bracketing. This is like pro tip number one. Take your lump sum and take the time, like print them out, take the time to go through the listing and write on the MLS sheets that you bring, the cool features of this house. They're gonna go, yeah, but did this house have that? No, but it had 3 times more than what you have. No, never. It makes you seem like the expert even further because now they believe that you've been through that. You just scroll. So I write anything like that's like glaring upgrades or anything like that. I'm writing that on the MLS form as I'm going through with them. Is 45 seconds of my time on each of these listings, scrolling through pictures, writing down quick notes, worth the accuracy to my future seller? Is it worth my confidence level in knowing how closely the home A compares to home B? Does the seller think I'm the expert instead of somebody who just brought them the 3 comps that they looked up in the outside but don't actually know what's going on at the home? Yeah. And this is where bracketing gets fun. Okay. So can I erase this now? Okay. So your question was lot size, okay? We deal with this a lot with like acreage properties, right? Large acreages, okay? So think about it like this. So if this is value, of a lot. How much of that value is contributed to the volume of ground that is there versus the ability to live and put a home on the ground? Building entitlements right now in Wright County, just for the entitlement and ability to build on the home alone, are trading between $75,000 and $100,000, just for the ability. Okay? So I would say ability, ground. So the difference between a 1 acre lot and a third of an acre, all you got to do is you just make an adjustment. I would call your favorite appraiser and say, hey, how do you make the adjustment? I'm going to weight it for sure, but it's like, I'm not gonna 3x the weight because the ability to build there is way different than the volume. So does that answer your question? Kinda. So I'm not gonna 3x the lot value just because there's extra ground, but I will make an adjustment upwards. So you may find, I would look at the 1 or 2 comps that you have that were on an acre, okay? And say, okay, if I comp this house out, what is the difference between this home? And more often than not, you can find it. You take the comp a 2nd level deep. What is the value of this home compared to this home on 0.3 acres? Like, what's the spread? Like maybe it's 20 to 25 grand. Something. It's very area specific, right?
Sometimes you can see on the tax values too.
And sometimes you can see the spread on taxes. The challenge that I have with that though, and so I have an uncle who's one of the appraisers for Wright County, and we argue all the time about values. Sometimes though, their methodology, because it's rear facing and often 6 months in delay, not an accurate picture of what's happening.
I said sometimes.
Sorry, Jeff. Sorry, Jeff. But that's what I find. So I would actually I would call an appraiser and say, because if you go into your seller's home and say, yeah, but these are all on a third and I've got double the lot size. Well, here's the standard appraisal adjustment. It's gonna also make you look like an expert. Maybe they do it on a per square foot basis, but that's the hard thing, is because you can have a street that divides 2 neighborhoods where lot values are gonna be completely different, right? So it may just be a feel.
We had one in Plymouth that was, on one side of the street was one school district and on the other side was a different one. Property value, very different. So
Yeah, think about that. Think about the line between Wayzata schools and Maple Grove schools. What happens if you go north versus south, right? Like, it's real. So, do you weight the school district? Yeah, you got it. You look at a Delano, for instance, I speak about Wright County. Delano is consistently rated in the top 5 school districts in the state. That holds their property values way above the rest of the county. Pull it against something in Buffalo, it's not the same. So, I have zero idea what time we're at. We're probably 20 minutes in. Oh, we're 40 minutes in.
I don't can see the clock either.
Oh, I can't.
Oh, it's behind the screen.
So, let's get into questions. Let's get into practice. Let's get into like, any questions on any of the first little bit?
At what point you've gone through the bracketing and all that, you
Yeah.
come close to a price.
Yeah.
At what point I would assume after that, now you're gonna bring in what's going on in the market.
Correct. So, Jamie, if you have not played the Steve Schluter, strategic pricing plan video in your team meeting, do it. So we actually we baked it into our listing. Can you pull up a listing on it? For a listing? So I'll just draw this out, okay? That's a good point, John. So we talk about this all the time, like amongst our team. If you're not watching what's happening in the marketplace in terms of price reductions, days on market, please do, right? That is our job as agents. Obviously, it varies community to community. Pretty good picture. Looking at the 7-county metro area, right? We're trended up, highest days on market of 2024 this year. Average days on market was 31. Only sitting around. Right? What is happening to the risk, cost of money? Let's just. So basically, this strategic pricing guide that we've used, Steve draws it out on a piece of paper. We just baked it right into our listing presentation. Okay. So on the sides, you have two arrows going up and down. Okay. You can draw this out with your seller. Okay. So market. Those are the market comps, okay? Can we agree, so this is up here is, sorry, I'm bouncing around, staged. Model. Condition, this is neglected. And this is seller's market. Buyer's market. Okay, so what's happening if we're going into an extreme seller's market? There's a trend line, right? Oh yeah. So, condition. Okay. So these are all, anything that you see out there in the marketplace will fall somewhere on this map, right? Either we are in an extreme seller's market and people are getting premium plus pricing, right? This is like 5 to 10% over, right? Did we see that for a long time when the risk and the cost of money was very low, right? We saw that, and what did that happen? What did that do? It pushed us up into an extreme seller's market. It was like 1 to 5 days on market for most places. Now, what are we seeing? We're not necessarily in a buyer's market yet. Traditionally, they say 180 days is 6 months on the market is a buyer's market. I think that's garbage. I think that data is old. I think it's inaccurate. I think right now, if we got to 90 days on market, I think we'd be in a pretty hefty buyer. So otherwise, there's premium pricing, which is like 3 to 5-ish% over, but that the market is trending downward here, right? There's more risk and the cost of money has been higher for the last 18 months. So we've trended more towards that, more towards the buyer's market. Not there yet, probably. What about condition and time? Are we in a model condition? Do we have completely neglected deferred maintenance? Most properties probably fall somewhere in the middle, right? So now, John, we can say, okay, we're actually trending this way on time. And we know that your condition is starting to degrade. So maybe we want to be just a hair below 6-month comparable pricing because the market is trending that way. You know, we're not getting like wholesale pricing, foreclosure pricing. Like, does anybody have any buyers or people that they've talked to said, I'm waiting for the market to crash and scoop up some of the pushers. Like, we're less than 1.5% of our market right now is distressed, so not gonna happen. So we actually baked this graph right into our listing presentation. And I will physically take that paper and just draw trend lines with them. And that helps bracket as well. What other questions?
How much time do you spend on your expertise telling them what you've done? I'm assuming that's before you do the, yeah.
Yes. So I have an email that goes out to them, okay, prior to our meeting, solidifying our meeting. I'm gonna send them a calendar invite to our meeting, so we're both on the same page. That email says, hey, Mark, great connecting with you about the sale of your property. Ahead of our meeting, I wanted to share with you a bit of information about our team and why so many people choose us to buy, sell, or invest in real estate. I'm gonna have 4 things in there, okay? Number 1, I'm gonna have my pre-list, okay? My pre-list package. Basically, it says the same thing that my listing presentation is, okay? Few nuances. This is great because the high Ds, when I show up and say, hey, did you have a chance to review what I sent? Yeah, I looked at it. I just want to talk to the numbers. I'm going to know exactly what. Yeah, I looked at it. I have a couple questions. Probably a high S, high C, right? I'm also going to send them. Number 2 is the Zillow map of sales. Okay. I don't think we have a great tool. Like I hate pushing people towards Zillow or saying that here. I've said times here today. Zillow map of sales is probably one of the most accurate, easy things to push where it says, yes, it has all of our sales for all of our team members right there. And it's just like, oh, holy crap, they sell a lot everywhere. Okay. Then I'm also going to have a link to our Google reviews. Now, if you have not focused on Google reviews, please do so. We have over 300 5-star Google reviews, and I can tell you that has made a massive difference in our lead generation and the people that call us versus having to outbound prospect. Local service ads are probably our second highest closed lead source rate.
What one? For what?
Sphere. Yeah, always. Sphere database.
Hey, what's your recommendation
What was number 4?
to
Hang on.
a newer agent that doesn't have the massive numbers that you do?
Start with 10. Get to 10. All 10 of your closest friends, have them write a review. Do you have a lender that you work with? Have that lender write a review. Do you have a title company that you work with? Have that title company write a review. It's not hard to get to 10 and then go to 30 and then go to 50. Once you hit 50, go to 75, 100 and set your goal. So we actually baked that review. We asked for it 4 times throughout the process. And if they don't do it at closing, when the Alta gets sent to, or when the commission payout gets sent to me and the agent from our MCA, our transaction coordinator has a final check and it said we did or did not receive a review from this person. And if we didn't, I call them, regardless of who the agent was. That's how serious we are about it. So, what was the question?
Number 4.
Number 4. A link to our website. Because I want them to go on and register, right? And then have all their information in there. And then a link to our Facebook site. I want them to see us on social media. So maybe there was 5. I don't know.
And the Zillow map is just of your sale, your team's sale.
Teams. But I guarantee them no one else is sending them that ahead of their meeting. Like, I want them to know who I am and what I've done because I don't want to talk about it. Like, I'm way better at the self-deprecating stuff than self-promoting stuff.
So it's a Zillow map of your sales, team sales.
Again, a
So
newer
you
agent
need
could
your,
use
goes the market center.
Could you use the market center sales?
Yeah.
If your market center is a team on Zillow, or to find that?
Yeah.
I can look into that.
still find enough,
Yeah.
just right here, you could do your own.
Yeah, probably.
'Cause I know you sell 5, 6 houses every year, so.
Thereabouts.
Thereabouts, just,
So,
Can you get them, do you, on your listing appointments, going on the one listing appointment and completing that listing appointment, do you get a lot of them signed on the spot on that first appointment?
it's pretty rare, but
Are you still doing, a tiered structure where you're showing what you do for?
Yeah.
3.5,
Yep.
4%, and then what?
3.5.
And then how are you handling with the new, rules? Are you encouraging them to offer it on the PA?
Yeah, well, how many of your people ask, like, are you getting a lot of objections about that at your appointments, or a lot of questions about it? So it's not that they didn't have to, they never had to pay a buyer's agent. The problem is that they signed up with a listing agent in the past, and listing agent said 6% on the listing agent share. So the issue is not that they have or don't have to pay a commission. They've just changed it. The term I've used is they have decoupled the commission. So now instead of you paying the listing agent 6%, and the listing agent paying it, all you're doing is paying that. So standard in our MLS is 2.7. That sounds fair to you? Right? So, and let's be honest, like, if somebody says, no, I'm unwilling to pay a buyer's agent, I'm gonna turn it down. Just not willing to do it. But what we gotta think of is, like, with all this stuff, with the bracketing, with that, with the commission conversation, it is really very, very simple. You have a goal to sell your house, right?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, and you wanna net the highest dollar amount with the best terms that we possibly can with the biggest headaches, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter which road we take to, probably the easiest one, right? Which is the one that people are used to. So let's just agree that if the number that we can obtain for you while still paying out a buyer's agent is one that we can agree is favorable to you, we're probably just better off. They have a goal, they want to accomplish it, they want very few headaches. They don't care how you get it done, just get it. There's gotta be more. Back to the bracketing, is that a pretty simple way? Are you guys using that method right now? Or are you doing something similar? Are you?
Fine to use that.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. So I've done they tell you bring 3 actives, 3 pendings, 3 solds. They tell you only need the solds. They tell you your different stuff. Like I said in the beginning, this is just my preferred way of doing it. I try to shorten my bracket a little bit, probably ahead of the meeting, but I don't want to ace myself out if that house turns out way better, or it's in way better condition, or they've added something that they didn't tell me about. So,
And you know the comps that you have in your hand. Like you've reviewed them, you've studied them.
yeah, because remember, I've
you
gone
have
through
to
each
know.
one and I've gone through the pictures and I've written down like the features. I've written down even the derogatory stuff towards the house. I've written all that stuff down.
You immediately know which ones you're taking out when you're kind of seeing that.
But the seller doesn't know that.
No, exactly. That's what I
So
mean.
you're reiterating and regurgitating data that you already know to a seller because you get to let them make that decision for themselves. And you're empowering them in the decision-making process about choosing a price.
Imagine too, if you're having those conversations then about pricing, that makes it easier year two, remember we were here, now we're seeing this shift.
Absolutely.
And they
Absolutely.
started that process.
And the other cool thing that you can do is you can watch the ones that you used that were pending, watch what they actually sold. So, I mean, if you're getting to 3 weeks, 4 weeks on the market and you're not done yet, back to those ones. But more importantly, I would say the actives are gonna be more important than any of them, because that's gonna give you real-time data on what you're competing against, what other buyers are choosing. That's not you.
You ever sometimes get that person that's just like, no, my house is worth more than.
Yeah.
Cause it's my house and whatever I've done to it.
Yeah,
Is that?
yeah. I smile at them and I go, yeah, why?
Okay.
I do, and I just shut up. Like, what specifically makes you believe that a buyer is willing to pay more for your house? If we have empirical data that they're like, oh, I have these 5 upgrades that house down the street doesn't have, yeah, let's use it. Because we have the same goals, right? I want to net you the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time with the fewest hassles that we possibly. And if that means we increase the price because you have those things, absolutely. But I've also asked them to provide data that shows that they can make that adjustment. Do we have any additional data that can support that number? Remember, that's we. Do we have any? Because I don't have any. Do you? Right? Like, so how you talk to people matters as well. All right. Sort of a little bit of stuff.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, let's get out of that.
Thank you, Eric.
Any questions online or no?
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
As I said, it was great.
All right.
He's on.
Good.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Pleasure.